What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. I'm just a pleb in my basement with a camera and a mic, and I do uploads every day at 9 a.m. Thanks again for joining. I want to talk about the confidence in the US dollar and the rise of Bitcoin. There's a lot of volatility right now going on in the markets. And I'm looking at right now the dollar versus Bitcoin. Not all cryptos, just Bitcoin. And I'm going to do a video just on Bitcoin to give my take on it. But if you're not familiar with Bitcoin, all it is, in a very simple way, it's just a currency. No different than the dollar, the euro, the pound. It's just another currency, but this one is just all digital. Georgeholtz is a brilliant programmer who is working on programming autonomous vehicles. And he's not focused right now on money as far as like trying to maximize his revenue for his company, comma AI. I found that very eye-opening to see a young man of one of the smartest guys out there that you'll see. I could listen to him talk for days, to hear him talk about how he doesn't care about making this money right here at this time, and it's not even real money. He's talking about the US dollar. He doesn't have much confidence in it.
Right. The people who oh man, I used to like brilliant kids in my high school, math and physics. What are they doing? Well, I joined a hedge fund. They pay me $400,000 a year. Like, you're a loser being paid in fake money. The money's fake. People are like, George, what conspiracy theories do you believe in? I'm like, I believe that in 1971, they made the dollar backed by nothing. And you all run around and compete for these fake dollars. They're like US points, Fed coin. Oh, yeah, hedge funds and ads. Yeah, well, okay, we got to get out of the hedge funds and ads way of thinking about that.
Why would Georgeholtz not have confidence in the US dollar? When this whole health issue started, Bitcoin was about at 9,000. When I did this, I reached out to my financial advisor. I'm like, this coin I used to follow, it used to be like worth nothing. Now I'm seeing the coin, one digital coin worth 9,000 at the time, $9,000. I'm like, what's going on here? That's a lot of money for one digital coin. And that's when I started reading and learning the fundamentals. My financial advisor said he didn't trust it. It's not secure, yada, yada, yada. Now we look at it, it's risen up to as much as 60,000 US dollars for one digital coin. Over the last year, this has been on full display, what I'm going to talk about here. The Federal Reserve has been printing money. So the Federal Reserve is loaning that money to the government. And the government's got to pay that back to the Federal Reserve. Who's the Federal Reserve? It's just a bank. We actually don't even know who owns the Federal Reserve. It's a private institution. It's the bank of all banks, yet the CEO is chosen by the President of the United States. It seems like there's a conflict of interest there. The problem with this is there's nowhere in the Constitution does it say the government has the power to create a central bank. Really, currency should be an open market, believe it or not, with competing currencies. And may the best currency win. You see, the value of the currency is really up to the faith that you have in it. Then you have the problem as well of the Federal Reserve Bank being too tied into the private sector. And there's no transparency and no accountability. One of the greatest politicians of all time, Rand Paul's father, Ron Paul, talked about it here.
Now, if the Fed were to get out of the way, what would that lead to? What would happen? When you say that assets are mispriced and interest rates are too low,
right.
What would the world look like and how would it happen?
Well, it can't happen overnight, and that isn't my position. I want to transition away from it, but I would legalize competition. If people get very disgusted with the dollar and the financial system, and just look at what the dollar is doing right now, I mean, these recent announcements just devaluing the dollar. But we ought to have the right to practice free market economics and follow the Constitution, allow gold and silver to be legal tender rather than putting people in jail if they want to do that. If you want to look at what it might be like without a Federal Reserve, look to the latter part of the 19th century, early part of the 20th century.
He was so amazing. Let me just do one more clip with Ron Paul. I got to do a whole video on him. He was unbelievable.
Pass out all the goodies. So they say, we'll keep borrowing. The credit good, we keep borrowing till interest rates go up. Aha, interest rates are going up. That's going to hurt the economy. So we have to have another gimmick. And that gimmick was invented in 1913. It was made a disaster in 1971. And that is the destruction of the currency through an illegal operation, an unconstitutional operation of the Federal Reserve System, which we should address and have a full audit and find out where and how they're spending all their money.
What Ron Paul was talking about there is in 1913, the Federal Reserve, as we know it today, was created. Basically, it's the richest people of that time got together and said, we want to run this whole show. We want to make sure we are ahead of the government. So it would be like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bloomberg, like all these, the richest people in the world pooling together and saying, we're going to start our own bank. How well do you think that would go over if these guys did that today? Said, and you woke up in the morning and you saw Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are creating a bank that the government has to borrow from them. People would be going nuts. But that's what happened in 1913, and we're still under that system now. At least back in 1319, money was backed by gold. For every $1, we would put away 35 ounces of gold, really to be set up. And if somebody wanted to come and claim their gold for their money, they could do it. They would, I believe it was in Fort Knox. I actually visited Fort Knox when I was younger with the family in Kentucky. But the dollar was backed, literally backed up by gold. You can see how inconvenient it would be if you want to print money, an infinite supply of money, but you can't, because for every dollar you've got to go find gold to put away to back it. That would be pretty annoying for someone who wants power. And in the 60s, we started violating our agreement that we would put away 35 ounces of gold for each dollar so we could fund the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War would have never been able to go on as long as it did if we didn't have the ability to break away from that gold standard and say, just print the money. It's an emergency. Sounds kind of like our current times, right? Print the money. It's an emergency. And I'm big on space travel. Whether we landed on the moon or not is an interesting topic for another day. But we use the money on that. We use the money that we printed without backing it up by gold like we should have. We used that money to put a man on the moon. In 1971, the gig was up. The program was suspended on gold. Then we transferred it over to oil. And that started our involvement and our interest in the Middle East. It's funny how you go back and you read history, and it all ties in together. It all comes full circle. Ever since the mid-1970s, the oil-rich West Asian and North African nations, basically the OPEC cartel, have been following an unusual monopolistic de facto directive from Washington, D.C. As per the directive, these countries must sell their crude oil to various national governments in exchange for only U.S. dollars, period. So it was a brilliant move to transfer over from gold to oil, force them to use the dollar, so that creates demand for the dollar, and now the dollar's worth something. If we didn't make that transition, the dollar literally wouldn't be worth anything because it wouldn't be backed by anything. There would be no demand for anyone to have it. So that brings us to our present time. So our money is no longer backed by anything of essence, and that's where we get the term fiat money. A fiat Fiat currency is money that's not backed by a physical commodity like gold, but instead backed by the government that issued it. Most modern currencies, such as the US dollar, euro, pound, and yen, are fiat money. Elon Musk tweeted on May 22nd, the true battle is between fiat and crypto. On balance, I support the latter. I'm going to end on this. The dollar is all about confidence. And what I'm seeing here is a growing lack of confidence. This tweet sums it up. I quote, "These scam coins are getting crazy." So they're pretending like this is not Bitcoin, but one of these other, not as respected coins out there. This coin has 27 trillion in circulation, an unlimited supply cap. Bitcoin is a limited supply cap, which is a big deal. Only one node, the Federal Reserve Bank, 25% of supply minted in last 6 months. That is true. 1% of holders own 30%. So with those stats, you would look at this and say, I don't want to have anything to do with this coin. But at the end, you see, just joking, it's the US dollar. The takeaway from this is, if one of the richest people in the face of the planet, Elon Musk, and others are starting to question the strength of the dollar, even though they have billions of it, and are hedging their bets, it might behoove you and I as plebs to educate ourselves and see if it makes sense for us to do the same thing. Take care.
Hey. I don't get writer's block, I just write them odd. I'm crisp like a Sprite when it's hot. This say you might just get dropped. Like it or not, I'm a likable guy, I'm psyching them odd. I was fighting in lots while you were just cycling thoughts. You a dyke in the box, so now listen. The way you pitching, you gon' need more than a mound visit. You sound timid and I don't kick it with round midgets. That hound misses, I found this is the way losers acting around misfits. Pound for pound, I'm the listing. You can bounce and get dismissed, clown, get this. Couldn't walk a mile wearing my Fitbit. Competition is non-existent, and you ain't worth the honorable mention. It hurts cause you don't wanna listen. Certainly I'm on a mission. Bone picking lame cats with face tats that I can't tell the difference in. Splitting images, depicting sentiments and lifestyles they never lived within. These cats are children, men, depending on ill wills and pills again. Tell me I don't wanna sell, because it's on my own terms. W or L, whether I succeed or fail. No plan to see you in hell. He can tell, stick around or he can bail. It don't matter to me cause I'ma eat as well. You can get yours in, it's important. I'ma get mine, not interdependent, cause wealth is not a fixed pot. Meaning you blaming your lack of success on another while you sit and do nothing is for losers and suckers, my brother. Man, just sitting here thinking, if I could just like rap like that every single track, I thoroughly enjoy rap a lot more than what I do now. It seems like so many cats really have downgraded in terms of rhyme schemes and lyricism, but let's get back into it. I'm more than a rare exception, you can't compare him. I'm fly as Tuskegee Airman. My patience is as thin as her pens. You find a sucker cat that's talking smack and I'll just dare him. Come at me sideways, attacking, I'm pushing back your chin. I know you sour, you adhere to fear, and I'm overpowered like Jiren or Beerus. You delirious, seriously, you a joke or high off Oxycontin. Better yet, you a moron and knock the Oxycontin, not the likes of mine. I remember sitting back laughing, hoping that I get signed. Now I own my own tracks, riding waves of the hypermind. Popular and dirt poor broke, that ain't my type of grind. If I got starter talent, then why would I wanna ride the pine? Pipe it down, listen closely. I'm on the floor, you in the nosebleeds. That's cause I spent my days with no sleep. You fools know me, and low key, you little bro sheep. A little bo peep, you like a vicious dog with no teeth. And I'm an animal that's off the handle, standing on the mantle. Rap game, John Randall, opposition manhandle. You can't light a dang candle on a sandhill with 20 matches and a handbill. You ain't got nan skill. You see these jokers, yeah, they mediocre. Don't get your hopes up, a contradiction like an old pup. I'm pulling cards like Ilyasova from deep playing Minnesota. Indeed, I'm a Timberwolf, and you just a mini crook. Won't let you off any hook. And plenty rooks thinking that they can get me shook, but on top of the scoring title, I'm locking up like Michael, the Jordan. And beforehand, I had the floor plan and the door hand, so they adore him.